How's it going, guys? My name is Roger, and today we're going to be reviewing the Red Komodo. Alright, so in this review video, I'm basically going to be going over the pros and cons of owning a Komodo. Pro number one is definitely how light it is. So basically, usually I run around with the Gemini in this setup, basically just V-mount battery, lens, outrigger handle, and I'm just running and gunning like this. But basically what I've realized with this guy is I can go all day long shooting on the Komodo in this setup. So basically, like, another addition to the how light it is the fact that I can just have it on the Ronin S2. For example, in a music video, I can have the Ronin S2 built with the Komodo and have my Gemini on sticks or a shoulder rig. And basically anytime I need to get a Ronin or dolly shot, I can literally just pick up my Komodo, get the shot, set it down, jump back on my Gemini in moments and be shooting already. So honestly, like, having both of the cameras and one on the RS2 and then one on a tripod or vice versa is definitely the way to go. On average, I get nearly twice as much content on the shoot having both these cameras. So pro number two to owning the Komodo is being able to travel with it. It's extremely easy to travel with this guy. I basically had the average luggage size that goes in the overhead compartment on a plane, and I had the Komodo with lenses, batteries, the Ronin S2 with its full setup, and all my clothes, toothbrush, everything else, and I was able to fit all of that into an overhead compartment. So that's really impressive to be able to travel with this guy and have a full 6K raw, capabilities in this small package is very, very impressive. When I went to Georgia, I had no problem getting this thing through the airport. The batteries are very small, so they, no issues there. It went through the X-ray machine. They didn't even have to go through my bag because they just thought it was probably like a small digital camera, which essentially it is. So definitely the ease of travel is amazing with the Komodo, and it's going to be my new travel companion essentially everywhere I go. It used to be my Gemini, and before that it was my Helium, but that's always a pain to take through, and especially getting it damaged through the airport. You can easily throw this in a backpack and take it with you anywhere. So I love how easy it is to travel with. So that's definitely the pro number two. Pro number three is the simplicity of use. This thing can be up and running in moments. You can literally it just depends how comfortable you want to be. You really don't need a monitor if you're going to be shooting just like little things here and there. Obviously a monitor makes it a lot easier, but I think that's what makes this camera so simple to use. You can literally just throw batteries, a memory card, your lens, an outrigger handle, and bam, like, you're shooting in moments. Even throwing a phone on here with like a little adapter, that's no problem at all too. It's quick, it's easy, it's very straightforward. I've taught a couple people how to use the Komodo, and in minutes they're out shooting, like, no problem. And I think that this camera also is a lot less intimidating for a lot of people. When they see it, they're like, hey, that's just kind of looks like a DSLR. So for them, it's a little easier to pick it up and start shooting. So that's definitely another thing I love about this camera, is the simplicity of use. Pro number four is the size. The thing I love about this camera is you can literally put this thing anywhere. Mount it on a car mount, put it on a drone, put it in the corner somewhere inside of a cabinet. This thing can really go anywhere. And then I think that makes this camera very special, because most other cameras, if you're trying to shoot in a very cramped area, you're really limited, with the body and the V-mount battery and the lens and the shoulder rig. You're really, a lot of times you're shooting a car scene and you're like, have this huge crazy setup trying to shoot the person, the driver next to you, and it's just a nightmare. You don't have the space and you can't have that, that movement that you want. So this camera really gives you that flexibility and the quality. So number four is the size. You just can't beat this thing. There is nothing else in the industry that is comparable to this in terms of its raw capability, its power. Sure, there's other cameras that can do better low light, higher frame rates, but they don't have the 6K raw, they don't have this ability, and they don't have the dynamic range that this camera can bring. Pro number 5 is the image quality. I know this thing is extremely small and you know, you can definitely underestimate it by its size. So I've shot 2 music videos so far, and when I'm editing the footage side by side, Gemini to Komodo, I really have a hard time telling which one is which. And that, I mean, that's a huge compliment to the Komodo, because I love the image of the Gemini. It was actually my favorite over the Helium and the Monstro. Like, the Gemini was my favorite. The image quality is insane. I mean, for something this small, it's amazing. I love it. I mean, the fact that you can take this pretty much anywhere with you, film, and have the red quality is insane. It's a game changer. I think anybody that has a chance to shoot with it will see just, you know, the fact that I can throw this on the Ronin S2 and the image looks like I had a, you know, fully decked out Gemini on a Ronin 2 with a huge setup, and I'm breaking my back getting the footage. The fact that I can capture all that with this little guy is incredible. Pro number 6 is the fact that you can pull stills from this camera. Something I noticed with the Gemini shooting 5Ks, you can't really pull stills from it. I mean, you can if it's like for like Instagram content and stuff like that. If you're taking portraits or pulling stills to put on a billboard, I wouldn't really recommend using the Gemini. The 5K isn't quite there, but the fact that this has 6K, you know, really pushes it over the edge in the sense of, you know, being able to pull stills from this. And I actually did that for Christmas. With my family, we didn't have a digital camera, and I'm like, hey, let me just set this up, put it in high quality mode, and I basically just took some footage and, you know, was able to pull some really awesome stills from that. I have a few photo shoots lined up that I actually plan to use the Komodo for that very reason, to just pull stills from. So number 7 is that it has a global shutter. You know, if you're taking video of you know, a wedding and there's lots of photographs, typically what you'll find is the flash will be in about half of the photograph. And the reason for that is because as it's scanning through on the sensor, the flash is already finished. So as it's scanning through and the flash is no longer there, it goes back to the regular exposure. And that's just an effect that really has always bugged me. When I see it in movies, when I see it on films, like, you know, it just has like a low budget feel when you see that. So the fact that you can do strobes and flashes and you'll never have that half frame weird exposure is a huge plus. And then also, even just stabilizing your footage, if you're doing a lot of handheld stuff or you have this on a car mount, it's gonna help so much with stabilizing your footage because you're no longer gonna be dealing with rolling shutter. So that's a huge plus. And also, you know, there's a lot of times where I'll end up picking up this camera over my Gemini because I know that it has a global shutter. I recently just shot a music video that had a lot of strobing effects. And, you know, it's almost like I wasn't used to having a global shutter, so it took me a second to go like, oh yeah, like let me just shoot it with my Komodo. And it, you know, like I said, it had no issues, it looked great. Client was very happy. So yeah, the global shutter is a huge plus for the Komodo. Number 8 is essentially that this is the newest, hottest camera in the industry right now. Everyone's trying to get their hands on it. Everyone's talking about it. You know, the waiting list is past April right now. So if you're making an order through B&H or even Red, anything like that, it's gonna take you quite a while to finally get your hands on one. I know it sounds silly, but it's actually a selling point for this camera. You know, I've had a few clients reach out to me specifically because I had the Komodo. They don't know anything about it. They just know it's new and that it's, you know, everyone's wanting to shoot on it. So, you know, I've already booked a couple jobs just from the fact that it's a Komodo. So yeah, I mean, I know it may seem a little vain, but in an industry where, you know, where fads are everything, you want to have the newest technology. And I've built my business on the fact that, you know, I always wanted to be on the head of the curve with the newest tech that's coming out. So number 9, it's on a pro and con, but essentially I love the Wi-Fi. You see this little antenna here. Basically, you can connect to an iPad, an iPhone, any sort of mobile device slash tablet. And I believe it also works with Samsung. I'm an Apple guy, so I wouldn't know. I'm sure it does though. Having the Wi-Fi capabilities is amazing. You know, I have my phone on there. It has very low latency. I can pull focus from it. You know, it has all the menu system on there. It's great. So the Wi-Fi capabilities is amazing, and I hope that Red incorporates this into their DSMC3 lineup. I'm sure they will. This almost kind of seems like a beta to like what people love and don't love about this camera. And yeah, I mean, if Red was intelligent, they would essentially make different versions of the Komodo where there has like a Gemini sensor, helium, all that. But we'll see, we'll see what they do. So number 10 Pro for the Komodo is the battery life. This Komodo can go for a long time. With these two batteries, it can go for about 2 hours. And if you have like the bigger ones, they can go for about 3 or 4 hours. That's really impressive when you're using this little guy, because most of the time you're not having this run all day long. You're shooting a couple shots, power it down, power it back up, get a couple more shots, power it down, power it back up. This is an amazing B camera for that reason. I mean, as an A cam, it can most definitely be an A cam, but as a B cam, it's perfect because you have these two guys on there and they can last all day long. And yeah, I've done 2 music videos so far where, towards the end, yeah, they were dying at the end of the day, but I still made it through the day on just these 2 batteries. So the battery life is amazing. I ordered the Tilta V-mount adapter that goes on the back. And with that, you throw a V-mount on there, that lasts 3-4 hours. I've heard people getting up to 5 hours of battery life depending on how big the battery is. But yeah, I think that's amazing that the battery life can go for so long. And that's a huge plus on this because I'm used to the Gemini where even if you have the biggest batteries, they really don't last that long. And it just chews through batteries, and this thing seems to just very sip on the batteries like a fine wine, and I like that. All right, so this is a bonus, number 11 Pro for the Komodo. The amount of accessories that's coming out for this thing is phenomenal. The Tilta cage, all the Tilta accessories, even the Tilta Alien Arm that you can mount this Ronin S2 and have that thing on there. I just purchased that. I've been testing it. I'm one of the first to get it, so I know it's gonna have its bugs, and I'm working the quirks out. And I'm gonna have a review for that very soon. But all the accessories that's coming out for this thing is just absolutely phenomenal. I love its form factor, its size, and it's just incredible what you can do with this thing in terms of like throwing it on a gimbal, on a car mount, on a drone. It's really like, and then even like on a jib, on a crane. I bought the DJI expansion kit, and like, yeah, there's just so much you can do with this thing, and I think it's going to revolutionize the industry with its size and its capabilities, and I think that hopefully, future cameras will follow in its footsteps. So let's talk about the negatives about owning a Komodo. Obviously, some of these things can be fixed with firmware, and I'm really hoping that they are. So yeah, let's dive right in. So the first negative that I've found is in its size. As much as I think it's a positive, for clients, it doesn't seem to be a positive. Because clients, when they see this, they think that the image is gonna be garbage, they think that the quality sucks, and they also think that you're lazy because they're like, oh, well, why don't you use your big Gemini setup? That looks really cool with that box thing on the front. They're talking about the matte box and the huge batteries and everything. Like a lot of clients, they don't know what a small camera like this is capable of, so they will assume that it's trash and they'll compare it to maybe a GoPro. So what I'd say is, as clients get more educated, and as you can even educate them and show them possibly footage that you've shot with it and all that, that will help them understand, like if you have the Komodo or even if it's your A cam, that's okay. They're gonna get a great image and they should be excited. But so far, that's what I've found. Anytime I bust this thing out, because it's so teeny and cute, people think like, oh, well, that's, some like crappy little DSLR camera that really can't do anything. And, people just get this if they can't afford a real Red. And, honestly, I think Red is accidentally made like their flagship camera. I think that this is going to be their most popular camera, obviously from the sales. People are getting into the ecosystem that would have never been able to get into it before. So yeah, so the size, as of now, I can see that being a negative for clients. Right, so number 2 negative is the fact that it just burns through card space. I was shooting a music video and I had set it to medium quality because I thought, okay, this should last me a while. And I burned through 256 gigabyte Angel Birds like nothing. One of the cards, like I had only done maybe like 4 takes and it burned through the whole thing. I'm like, how is that possible? So honestly, I think that this actually shoots almost higher bit rate than the Helium, because I could basically, when I had the Helium 8K, I could essentially do like a whole music video shoot on a 512 card, and this burned through 2 512s and really like half the time. So I haven't tested much with the low quality. I'm always kind of afraid to do low quality because that typically means more noise, more artifacting, stuff like that. So more testing is needed. I thought it'd be safe with medium quality, but yeah, I mean, you can burn through it pretty quick. And you know, these cards are very expensive. I know I spent a buttload on my 512 Red Mag SSDs, you know, but when you have something as small as this, you know, you're really hoping that the cards are going to be a lot cheaper, but they're not. So yeah, burning through card space, not so great. I actually, after the second shoot I did, after the second music video, burning through those cards and not having anything else to shoot with, I ordered another two 256 Angel Bird cards. By the way, if you order the 256 Angel Bird cards in this pack of 2, they end up costing $400. But if you buy the 512 individually, that costs about almost $600. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why they're bundling it that way. Maybe people like to pay more just so they can do longer takes. But yeah, if you look on B&H's site, look for the 2-pack of the 256, get them for $400, save a couple $100. All right, so one of the negatives is the mounting issues. And what I'm talking about is the CFast cards. You know, occasionally if I pop one in, it says that it's corrupt and needs to be reformatted, or it'll ask to repair. You know, and typically what I'll do is I'll power down, power back up with the card already inside and hope that it works. Most of the time it does, but sometimes it'll still say card is unreadable, needs to be reformatted. You know, and I've never really had that with any of my DSMC2 or DSMC1 cameras. But it seems to be a somewhat common thing for this camera. Like I said, I definitely think it could be a firmware thing. I'm really hoping it is, because that can be a pain when you're, you know, about to roll, you pop in a fresh card and it's telling you that you have to basically restart your camera and remount it or fix it or repair it. So that can be really frustrating, especially if you're on like a tight schedule and you have to be shooting and the client's behind your back and your card's like, you know, giving you issues. And I made sure I got the Angel Bird cards to prevent this exact issue. I wanted to get the best cards to make sure that I wasn't having mounting issues, corruption issues, all that. As of yet, I haven't had any corruption issues, thank God. But yeah, the mounting thing can get really annoying. So that's definitely number 3 negative. So number 4 negative is the fact that almost no batteries are compatible with the Komodo besides the Canons. I know that the Canons do have the technology inside to communicate with the camera, but I wish they had a broader net of which batteries are compatible, because I mean, I'm not going to spend $250 per battery, per Canon battery to run this thing. You know, I'm either going to get, I mean, I did get the V-mount expansion kit, and right now I'm currently using these Wasabi batteries that I got on Amazon. I know they're not compatible. For me, I just need to get up and running, and you know, the Canon batteries are sold out everywhere. I'm not going to pay twice the price for them just to get them sooner. So for me, I'm using these Wasabi batteries. They work great for me. I know you can't tell the voltage and you kind of have to just guess, and it can possibly cut in the middle of a take. But you know, right now this works for me, and I just wish that it would at least tell you the voltage. You know, at the very least it could tell you the voltage. So yeah, that is a pain, that is annoying. But as of now, like, I'm dealing with it. But that's definitely number 4, is the compatibilities of the battery. All right, so negative number 5 is the teeny tiny little monitor. It is very, very small. It is probably the size of the original iPod video with that screen. You know, honestly, it's probably even smaller than that. It's just like a teeny little screen where, you know, if you stare really hard, you can tell what's going on, but it can get really straining on your eye. And if you're in the daylight, you really can't tell much of what's on the monitor, and it's extremely hard to tell what's in focus. You know, if you're just pulling, you're hoping that it's in focus, and then you get back, check the footage, notice that it's not in focus. So, I mean, I can't complain too much because it's essentially included into the body. They didn't have to do this. They easily could have just had it be, you know, had nothing there, or just had more buttons. So I do appreciate the fact that it does have a monitor. It's not very usable, but where it is usable is as changing the settings, changing your shutter speed, your frame rate, your ISO, all that. It's perfect. The menu system's great. You know, it's very straightforward. In terms of just like seeing what is in focus though, extremely difficult. So I did say that the Wi-Fi was a pro, but the Wi-Fi is also a con. So what I mean by that, if you have your wireless accessory, your monitor, your iPad, whatever, and it's within this vicinity of the Komodo, it's fine, you're good, not gonna get too much interference. But If you are, for example, you throw this on a car mount, you're driving around, you're trying to use your iPhone or your iPad as a monitor, unless you're in the middle of nowhere, you will have constant interference. The interference on this thing is absolutely atrocious. It is literally like you'll see one frame for every 5 seconds. And if you're on a car mount with the Tilta Alien Arm, that's a huge issue. If you're trying to control the head and you're trying to, follow a car or a person, it is essentially impossible. I was very disappointed to see how bad the Wi-Fi was when there's any interference at all. I've yet to take it out to the middle of nowhere and try it. Maybe out there it'll be flawless, but in all the testing that I did in my neighborhood, down the street, it was atrocious. It essentially just didn't work at all. The only thing that it was good for was recording and stopping the camera. That's the only thing that was positive about the Wi-Fi on this camera. Like I said, unless you're in a very close proximity, it is going to be trash if you're in a residential area. Negative number 7 about the Komodo is the Komodo app. It crashes all the time. It's extremely difficult to connect to. Half the time you'll be clicking to connect to it and the little Komodo icon will not appear to click on the camera. And you have to basically close the app, open it again. You finally click on it maybe 5-6 times and it'll open up, but then the video feed is not there. So then you have to close the app again, open it back up, video feed's still not there. Close it again, open it again. And if you're lucky, yeah, maybe it'll be there. And then, like I said on the previous one, the signal is so bad if you're in a residential area that it will just keep closing and restarting or freezing, or the app doesn't work at all, or you can't connect at all. I mean, I've had a lot of headaches with the app. I want it to work so bad, and when it does work, it's amazing. But most of the time, it doesn't work. So this could all be a firmware thing. It could be a software thing. I made sure I used the newest iPhone. I just got the iPhone 12 Pro Max Extreme, whatever the hell they're calling it now, and I had a lot of issues. I mean, even when I was in Washington, I had issues. Today, I was trying to use it and couldn't connect. When I had the Tilta Alien Arm, I kept having issues. It was essentially unusable. So the app needs a lot of work. I'm really hoping that they can get there. I have faith, but as of now, I mean, if you had to pay for the app, I would not tell you to buy it. The fact that it's free, awesome, go for it, try it out. Hopefully you're in the middle of nowhere when you're testing it. But what I found is that it's essentially almost unusable. Negative number 8 is the autofocus. I know that it's not there. It's essentially a beta. It's very spotty, and it basically just works really well if you aim it at a super high contrasty area, which is fine. I mean, I don't really like using autofocus. I think it could be great for the gimbal, but I plan to buy the DJI Focus or the Eye or whatever the heck they call it.
Raven Eye.
So that hopefully will help me out with that, because obviously the manual lenses won't have autofocus, so might as well prepare and do it the right way. But yeah, the autofocus isn't great. There's a lot of hunting, and it just doesn't feel right. I think in a few updates it could definitely be way more usable, especially on gimbal work, but as of now it's not super usable. All right, so negative number 9 is the booting up issue. So basically this thing does take a while to boot up. I mean, anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds, but it also, sometimes you'll power it off and it'll stay on and it won't turn off, and then randomly it'll turn off, and by then you've possibly turned it back on, and then it's almost like a cycle where you're turning it on and it turns off, and you turn it off, turns back on. So I think that there is definitely some firmware issues that can be worked out with this camera. I'm not used to a camera doing that. Typically when you flip a switch to turn something off, it is off, and we turn it on, it's on. But this seems to have some weird, it's almost like a suggestion, like I suggest you turn off, and then it's like, all right, maybe I will, maybe I won't. It's a little weird, but I really do think that this can be fixed with firmware, most definitely. All right, and actually I think my Tilta cage just arrived. Let me go check. Right on, guys. So I just had my Tilta cage arrive, and there's some angel bird cards here. I'll open that later. Last negative I'd have to say about the Komodo is the fact that the mounting points down here are so close together. I basically can't use it for most of my mounts. Even putting it on the Ronin Classic, I essentially can't use both mounts. I can only use one of them. I'm not really sure why they put these mounts so close together. I feel like it's extremely unusable in many situations. They should have kept the same mounting distance as the Gemini or any of the DSMC2 or DSMC1 lineups. I'm not really sure why they did that, but yeah, that's probably my last nitpick about the camera. All right, so basically guys, the verdict is I absolutely love this camera. It's very small, it's easy to use, it's fun to use, the quality is amazing. I love that I can use my lenses with it. I love that it complements my Gemini. I can use it as a B cam. I could travel with it. The fact that it has the wireless signal to connect your devices. I mean, I really can't say enough positive things about this camera. I know, honestly, the negatives, so much of them are nitpicky, and I know that they're going to be fixed in software updates. So I'm really not too bummed out about it, but I would recommend this camera to anyone who has the finance to get one. In reality, just remember you're going to be spending around $9,000 to get this thing up and running. You say you buy it for $6,000 when you're looking at media, batteries, you know, hopefully you have lenses already. If you don't have lenses, you're going to be looking at $10,000, $12,000. So this camera, just remember, for $6,000, you're just getting this little brick. It can't do anything. So just remember, you have to spend all this money to make it work. And if you have that and you want to raise your the quality of your content, you want to, you know, get in essentially with the big boys and start making, you know, epic looking music videos, you know, when you even if you're doing like high-end weddings or you're doing documentaries, like this is the perfect camera for most situations. If you already have a Red camera, this is the perfect addition to your camera lineup. Even if you have an Alexa, this is the perfect B cam to throw on a drone, a gimbal, a car mount, anything. Like, this is my go-to camera in most situations, and almost every single shoot that I'm on, I will bring this with me as well. You know, there's times when I'm on a music video shoot where I just wish I had two Komodos. You know, one Komodo on a gimbal, one Komodo for handheld, and I'd be good to go. Most music videos, you don't need a Gemini, you don't need a Monstro or a Helium. You know, unless you're doing slow motion and all that, that's really the only times where I'm like, okay, jumping on my Gemini is for slow motion or low light situations. So I cannot recommend this camera enough. I love it. It's only getting better by the firmware update, and it's the most wanted camera in the industry right now. I feel extremely grateful and lucky to have it. I have so many more accessories coming in that I'm going to be reviewing. I'm going to be doing a complete review on the Ronin S2. I just got my Tilta cage, as you guys saw. You know, I'm going to be doing a review on the Tilta Alien Arm, and basically all ecosystem for the Komodo. I'm going to be reviewing all of it. The orbiters come in a week. I'm going to be reviewing those as well. So stay tuned, guys. I'm really excited about all this new tech coming through. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be posting some test footage that I shot with this guy. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment below. Feel free to ask whatever you want about all this gear. All right, bye, guys.